Mercedes-Benz intends to be a complete electric car maker, and to that end, by the year 2025, they're going to introduce an electric vehicle in every segment that they're present in. And by the end of the decade, they intend, well, to be a completely pure electric vehicle manufacturer. Now, to do that, one of the cars that they've introduced in the market is, of course, this. This is the luxury flagship sedan, the EQS, and this car will be coming down to India. Now, the EQS is built on a completely new platform, an electric vehicle platform, unlike some of their previous cars, which were built off, ICE platforms. Now, Mercedes-Benz India will be assembling the EQS at their factory near Chakan in Pune, and that means it's going to be affordable. It's going to be, well, offering some great technology, great driving experience. I'm here in Stuttgart in Germany to test drive the EQS 580 4MATIC, because that is the version that Mercedes-Benz will be offering to consumers in India. And I'm pretty excited to see what the EQS stands for, because there is some very interesting things on offer in this car. Now, before I get into the driving of the EQS 580 4MATIC, let me talk about the design a bit, because what you can see here is the AMG line, and this isn't the specification that Mercedes-Benz India will be offering. Initially, it will be the standard EQS, which means a lot of the design elements that you see on the front end, especially this lower bumper, well, that is not going to be there. Now, let me take you through a few interesting bits over here. The hood on the EQS cannot be opened. There is no lever, there is no button inside the car that allows a customer to, well, effectively open the hood. This can only be done at the service station. You will get the digital lights. Well, these will come as standard, and of course with a few more features as compared to what we've seen on the S-Class. A lot of the sensors are, well, present under the front grille. Again, not an exposed grille, or rather not an open to the atmosphere grille. It's a single piano black finished element with, of course, the Mercedes-Benz three-pointed star motif embedded over there. Looks pretty impressive. At the lower end, on the AMG line, of course, you get further ducting in the side air dams for airflow, which then passes from the front end over the wheels. Let me take you to the wheels, because this is another aspect that is exclusive to India. The Indian version of the EQS, the 580, will come with the 20-inch alloys and tires. Aerodynamic effect, of course, across all of them. This is essentially to enhance airflow over the body and then increase, or rather enhance efficiency. Moving further towards the back, you can see the EQS logo right there on the front quarter panel. You get these flush fitting door handles. Pretty impressive, aren't they? And right at the end, over the rear right fender, got the charging point, and this follows European standards, which is CCS, and of course that is the most commonly used standard across India as well. Time to get into the car. Let me also take you through what the rear seat, because this is the EQS, the, well, electric S-Class, and all that's important is, of course, how it feels in the back seat. And this, as you can see, is the rear seat area of the EQS 580 4MATIC, and it is very generous. Lots of knee room, lots of leg room, yet it just doesn't feel as grand, or rather as spacious as the S-Class does. And that's also because of a couple of other reasons. You've got the sloping roofline, and while you've got the adequate head space, this roofline is significantly different from what you see on the S-Class. But keeping in line with being the flagship luxury sedan, you get a lot of features for the rear seat occupants as well. You've got your own climate control that will adjust the temperature inside this area of this cabin. You've got, well, adjustable backrests, which is fantastic. Continues to be the flagship feature here. And of course, you've got the armrests with a charging pad. And in some cases, you would also get the touchscreen, which will allow you to control the infotainment system's features. In addition, the version that will be offered in India will also have the large screens behind the driver and the passenger seat for all your entertainment and control functions as well, as far as what you need to control by the rear seat passenger. So there you have it. This is how well the cabin in the EQS is appointed. It feels rich, it feels nice, it feels luxurious, and in keeping in line with what the flagships ought to offer. Mercedes-Benz India will bring down the flagship EQS to India in the fourth quarter of 2022, which means sometime in October they will be launching the EQS in India. Now this will be available in just one trim, or rather one powertrain variant, and that is the 580 4MATIC. Now this is the flagship sedan in the EV range, though it sits just below the AMG version. The EQS 580 4MATIC, being the flagship sedan, is, well, not just the more powerful one, but it's also the one equipped with all the top of the line features. One of them being, of course, a very advanced navigation system, and it is what is helping me navigate these fairly narrow streets here in Stuttgart. I love the way the camera switches on and shows you every time you come to an intersection exactly which road to take. To do this, it uses the front cameras to indicate, or rather to show you a view of the road ahead of you, and then utilizes indication arrows to point out the direction you're supposed to go in, which is just phenomenal. Something I've never ever seen in a car before, and well, it's just amazing. The EQS 580 4MATIC, well, it comes with a 107.8 kilowatt hour battery. It's the largest battery pack we would have seen in India. No other car offers that large a battery pack, and that of course means that you also get the highest range ever seen. In this case, the 580 4MATIC is rated to about 650 kilometers as per WLTP cycles. It is almost a Tesla beating range. The other interesting aspect about the EQS 580 4MATIC is that as per the efficiency cycles, this car offers slightly better economy on the highways, not in the city, which is interesting. Now, that is something we will test once the car comes down to India, but well, that is an interesting fact. Like most other Mercedes-Benz sedans or the SUVs, you get variable drive modes in the EQS 580 4MATIC as well. Now, you've got the economy mode, which maximizes range. You've got the comfort mode, which is ideal for city conditions. You've got sport mode, where the EQS 580 4MATIC is capable of doing a 0 to 100 in about 4.1 seconds. Now, this is a fairly heavy car. Keep that in mind. It's got a very, very large battery pack. 107.8 kilowatt hour battery pack is just huge, and it's heavy. And yet, the performance is absolutely astounding. You also have an individually selectable driving mode, which means you can select various driving parameters and, well, of course, set them to comfort, sport, or economy. The sport mode is quite interesting, but here's the catch. It effectively drops range by almost 30%. Ideally, you'd want to leave the EQS 580 4MATIC in comfort mode, but barring that, if you need to maximize range, then of course it is the economy mode that you need to drive in, and that's where you get the most efficiency. Now, out here in Germany, Stuttgart has got a fairly extensive network of charging stations. Most of them are Type 2 AC chargers, but well, there are a few DC chargers as well. Talking about charging, the EQS 580 4MATIC, or the EQS for that matter, can be charged at charging stations up to about 300 kilowatt speeds, which is fairly fast, and will take you less than about 15 to 20 minutes to get a full charge. Pretty impressive. Right behind the steering wheel here, we've got paddle shifters, but again, in an electric, paddle shifters aren't used to change gears. The EQS has well, a single ratio, and these paddle shifters allow you to change the level of recuperation, which is the energy that you gain back from the system to charge the batteries. And you've got two modes in that. You've got D, which is normal recuperation, or you've got D minus, which is extremely strong recuperation. You can also go to D plus, which allows the car to coast but without recharging the batteries. In normal recuperation, some amount of charge comes back into the system, and that's ideally the mode that you need to leave it in for most driving situations. Now the EQS, all variants ride on air suspension, and this is of course electronically controlled, so the dynamics are adjusted depending on the sensors and what the detect the condition of the road is like, or essentially what kind of inputs the driver is applying at the steering wheel. Of course, throttle inputs also matter in this entire sequence of events. But on the whole, ride quality is extremely impressive. It's very comfortable. When Mercedes-Benz offers the EQS 580 in India, there are a few features that will stand out. One of them, of course, is that it will come with the Hyper Screen, this massive end-to-end digital dashboard will be standard feature. Alongside that, the EQS 580 4MATIC will also come with the 20-inch wheels and tires, and of course you will get the digital lights. Now digital lights, we've seen that before in the S-Class. However, in the S-Class, I don't believe it offered all the functions that it's capable of, well, executing. And I'm hoping that Mercedes-Benz doesn't lock out some of those amazing features that digital lights provide, especially where the lights throw up navigation markers in the light beam on the road in front of you at night, of course. Let me tell you a bit more about the Hyper Screen. This is about 1.4 meters in width from one end of, well, left side door, from one end of the dashboard, extending right up to the other end of the dashboard. It consists of 3 individual screens, two 12.3 screens on either end, on either of the edges, and of course a 17.8-inch display right in the center. This is a massive display, and of course allows you to control almost every facet of this car through that screen. I do love how this car feels. There is certainly something very special about it. It is a phenomenal showcase of what the future holds in store for us. Keep in mind, the S-Class has for decades now been the precursor of all futuristic technologies, both in terms of electronics, driving dynamics, performance, comfort, luxury, and what have you. And the EQS is no different. It continues to be the flagship of all that is good with the automotive industry, of all the developments that are happening in the automotive industry and are being passed down the line to cars in various segments. And in that sense, this is probably one of the finest cars you will see ever in the luxury space in the EV industry. And yet, if I had to make a choice, I would choose the S-Class and not the EQS, because the S-Class on so many levels just feels so much grander.